Ltd Solution presents the story of Mr. Tech and Mr. Biz. There are 5 typical mistakes companies make that can be addressed by enterprise architecture. Mistake 1: IT and business miscommunication. Your IT team talks in technical terms while your business team cannot articulate their IT expectations. This causes many companies to lose money. Mistake 2: islands of systems. Many companies implement IT projects as standalone systems, or separate islands which do not complement and cannot even communicate with each other. This unnecessarily increases complexity and raises maintenance costs. Mistake 3: stuck in era of automation. Usually, the approach is to use IT to automate certain business processes. Such a scenario was very project management focused, resulting in time, resources, and being fixed based on broadly defined requirements. Mistake 4: IT and business strategies not aligned. The role of the IT department is to map out what applications and technology a company should implement to keep itself competitive. But many IT professional comes from the IT side, not the business side, and usually does not understand the business needs of the company. Mistake 5: IT viewed as a cost center instead of a profit center. Return on investment is difficult to measure when it comes to IT, which is often seen as a cost of doing business. So, where does your IT department stand? Is it in IT hell? In deep water? On dry ground? Or on the top of the hill? Now let us review the solution to the 5 typical mistakes. Mistake 1: IT and business miscommunication. The solution is in finding a common vocabulary that allows the IT team to think in technical terms but yet familiar with business jargon, and for the business team to accurately express what it needs. Enterprise architecture facilitates that common vocabulary. Mistake 2: islands of systems. Enterprise architecture allows you to review the entire system, and eventually make a strategic decision on whether to decommission the existing system and buy a completely new one, or to modify the existing system so that they can communicate with each other. Mistake 3: stuck in era of automation. Companies need to enter the digitization mode, which is more enterprise architecture focused, where enterprise architecture development comes before project management, so that technology is more agile. Mistake 4: IT and business strategies not aligned. The enterprise architect should familiarize himself with the business requirements of the company, so as to be able to integrate the company's technology and business strategies. Mistake 5: IT viewed as a cost center instead of a profit center. With enterprise architecture, which is designed to help companies make decisions to improve the productivity of the business through effective and efficient use of IT, it is possible to view IT as an investment that generates measurable value. Here are the list of EA benefits. Your IT team thinks technical, but talks business. Your business team can accurately express their IT wants and needs. You can accurately calculate the ROI for IT projects. Your staff are equipped with the right skill sets to progress with the company. You have a digital map of your enterprise. Your IT department generates profit. If you find that your organization suffers from any one or any combination of the above 5 mistakes highlighted here, it could definitely benefit from enterprise architecture. It's as good a time as any to get started on it.
My name is Aaron, so I will be presenting about the business IT architecture fundamental. So basically, it's about how do we integrate business and IT, and of course, the most important part is that how do we capture the requirement correctly. It is what about the so-called objective of this presentation. So just to give you a perspective, so this presentation will take about 1 hour. Actually, it's taken from the 3 days workshop training based on the ISA IT architecture body of knowledge. So basically, the body of knowledge is about practical best practices that has been proven working in the industry that can help us to become efficient and effective on how we can adopt the technology correctly and deliver value to the business. We call it BITAF, Business IT Architecture Fundamental. So basically, it's about providing a rationalized IT skill set. Because what happened is that today IT skill set is more lean towards particular technology. But we need some sort of the actual critical IT skill set that we can use to apply in our day-to-day work, how we can get closer to the business, and how can we deliver a technology value to the business. So basically, this course is providing a personal tool set. So basically, it's giving you and me as a professional, could be a business person, could be the IT person, how we can work together in delivering a solution for the business. Because today, in the era of digital, business and IT has been so-called merging. So no longer like in the past that you are business team and IT team. So if any issue in the past, I think we often heard that if anything not right, business people likelihood we blame the IT people. They said that the IT people don't understand business, but if you ask the IT people, they will tell that the business also they don't know what they want. Perhaps they know what they want, but they don't know what they need. So that's why they got miscommunication. So this is basically the workshop to get us iron out this issue so that both business and IT can work together. And of course, how to do to understand the holistic approach of the nature, activity, and skill requirement in leveraging IT strategically, because today in the digital era, we cannot anyhow adopt or implement any technology without understanding the impact that can bring to the business, without understanding what capability that the technology can bring to the business. So just a caveat here that this course is not about technology or platform, so we don't talk about any vendor at all. So target audience for those who want to get a practical knowledge and skill. So both from the business and IT team, how they can work together to deliver technology solution. Of course, now we call it in the era of digital transformation, so that we can deliver success to our organization. And the next one is more on the performing the role business and IT integration. In fact, some of our alumni in the past, they after attending like this type of course, they start to change their name, no longer IT, but they call it BT. Because by changing from information technology to business technology, it will change the mindset of both ways. So for the IT team, they just start realizing, hey, actually in my department, there's the word B, business. So I need to have some sort of interest to know more about business and to get closer to the business. And to the business people as well, when they look at your department, hey, your department called BT. So I think I should get you involved in my business meeting. So this is something that are very, very critical moving forward as we go into the so-called full digital mode. Because now the many organizations are, of course, now with the COVID-19, we are being forced to go through the digital transformation in the span of the short few weeks, not even months. So everyone now is gearing up towards digitalization. Just to give you perspective about this fundamental knowledge that are required if you perform the job of architects. So be it infrastructure architect, information architect, solution architect, software architect, or business architect. As you can see here at the bottom left, this is very important because like if you know about the frequency, it's about alignment. How both business and IT can understand each other. So the business people understand the technology challenges and the IT people also understand the business challenges, how they are trying to solve. And after that, we establish the communication platform so that both business and IT can be in the same page. These are very, very highly practical. So I will go through with you, give you a flavor on what is being covered. Then after that, typically the student will go through into the architecture core. Architecture core is about basically the journey of an organization to go through the transformation with enterprise architecture. The architecture core actually guiding us how we can do a presentation to the senior management, to the business unit, to the ID team, to the project manager, delivering value of technology to the business. Then after that, we also learn about the framework, how we establish the so-called enterprise architecture. Then we learn about the language, the Archimate. Then we learn business technology strategy and all the specialization. what is the landscape of business and IT architecture today? Let me just borrow the concept of the butterfly, because butterfly is one of the animal that really can go through transformation at the different shape. So it's very, very interesting. They live from the egg to caterpillar to cocoon and butterfly, and interestingly, they only live for 2 weeks. So their given time is 2 weeks, not 2 months or 2 years. So in 2 weeks, if they don't work hard to find a partner in life, their generation will be wiped out. So I guess this can also apply to our business. We are given a specific of time that we need to transform. Otherwise, our competitor will take our share, our business. So how can we go about doing this? So this is what Gartner highlighting in terms of the hype cycle. So everything now is getting shorter and shorter. So we need to react fast, we need to move fast, and we need, of course, fail fast and also come back fast. So how can we do this? And of course, now we also need to know the context of era of computerization that has ended in 2010, and we are now in the 2020, almost 10 years from the digitalization era. But however, the issue that we face is that we are still doing the era of computerization in terms of the functional spec, capturing the requirement, how business talk to IT, how IT talk to business. That's why so many issues that we face today in our project. And how can we learn from it? So this is what happened, the highlight on the computerization era. So those of you who have worked more than 15 years, 10 years, you went through this era. Mostly are technology focused. So before even we go into the understanding what the business requirement in detail, we already talk about what technology we are going to use. So it jumps straight away to the solution without knowing the actual problem. In the past was okay, because in the past we are doing computerization. Now we are doing digitalization and transformation. And of course, project management focus. In the past is that the project is given a timeline and resources and also the budget. Before even we know the scope of work in very, very detail. Because why? The scope of work very detail, we are going to do it in the first maybe few weeks or few months of when we start the project. So in the past was okay because we are going through computerization. Today we are in the era of the digitalization. If we continue doing this, it is very, very difficult for the project to be successful. Then after that, of course, the challenges, I think we all know, so many issues that we face, requirement creep, time overrun, resource overrun, and etc. And of course, in some cases, is that the project need to be scrapped, and then we need to issue phase 2, actually is part of the phase 1. So this is the irony that we see today. And in the digitalization era, actually, it will be more on the business focus. So we are really looking at the business and IT integration, how both can be so-called looking at the same problem at hand, and how both can also resolve the solution together. So this is something the digitalization era will require. The next one, of course, architecture focus. So in digitalization era is that we need to do architecture first before the project management, before the construction. It's exactly the same like the building. In the building, we also define the architecture, we define the blueprint before we do construction. But today what happened is that many of them are doing 2 in 1. While they are doing development, construction, in the same time they are architecting as well. So the benefit, of course, we want to have the IT project success, we want to have the ROI for business investment, we want to have business IT agility and integration. So this is the outcome of what we are trying to do. And so in summary is that we require business IT integration and the connected enterprise. We cannot say business tell IT what they need. After that, business people go doing something else after the system up, and when we are going through the UAT, acceptance testing, the business people come back and they say, oh no, this is not what I need, and this is not what I want, and you got all type of changes. This is also another irony into their life that many organizations, they come up with the digital strategy and they go straight in the digital transformation initiative. So if you continue doing this, something you cannot deliver really tangible value of technology. So what you need to do, you need to go through enterprise architecture. Because this one is very, very important. We need to understand the architecture. So we need to understand about the business dependency between business, data, application, and technology to drive the transformation. Then in here, you do execution. So basically, to have the enterprise architecture in place, we need to have 4 components. The first, we need to have what I call it the framework, the F. So framework is very, very important because we want that the entire organization doing the same approach in terms of the how we run the transformation. Then after that, we also need to have the what we call it T, the tool. So we cannot run manual using Excel or Microsoft Word or PowerPoint. We need to have a digital repository to run this. It's the same like the musical. So we need to have the proper musical tool. Then we also need to have the skill set, which is about the ability in this context is that to execute the digital transformation. So there will be some sort of unlearn and relearn what we already know. And of course, when we talk about transformation, we need to communicate a lot with the different group, different people, and we need to have some sort like in the musical world that they have this type of musical notes. So in architecture, they have also what they call it Archimate, which is the architecture language that we need to use to communicate our architecture to the business team, to the stakeholders, to the senior management, to the business team, to the IT team, to the vendor, and etc. So they should have this type of 4 component. And if you have that 4 component, then we can blend it together to have a digital enterprise architecture. Of course, some of you who have done enterprise architecture and you say, what's the difference between the digital? So the digital here means we have this type of tool and repository as a single source of truth. And we have the meta model to connect all of them. In the past, EA is more on the static in the form of the Word or Excel. And typically, this type of documentation is very fast to get obsolete. Even you get a sign off or the version 1.1 in the morning, by the afternoon already obsolete because business change. And of course, we need to have what they call it enterprise architecture office to drive business and IT agility. And we need to also, just now as you mentioned that we need to drive the project management to execute the transformation. In essence, in terms of the framework that we the proven best practices like TOGAF, and the skill set is actually the ISA body of knowledge. And then the notation is Archimate. And of course, we need to have the repository as a single source of truth for us to do analysis, impact study, as well as doing a dashboard or the reports. So in essence, is that the enterprise architecture should be giving us acting function as a command and control. Because what happened is that we need to manage all our strategic planning, IT strategic planning, business strategic planning, our portfolio, our risk management, our procurement, our technology life cycle, project portfolio, solution, and also change management. All these are very, very critical in terms of day-to-day running an operation in the typical enterprise. Just to give you a so-called a quote by Gartner that actually Gartner already identified this in 2016, about 4 years ago, that Gartner already foresee that you want to be successful in the running digital transformation, you need to have enterprise architecture, because Gartner say as a gateway. And of course, this is something that has been predicted in the 2014, if you can see on the screen. Gartner says that in 2025, enterprise architecture become part of the enterprise ecosystem. Because why? You see the map here, inside out, outside in, outside out. But this is what Gartner made in 2014 to 2025. So 10 years prediction. But I would think that this 2025 is this month, this year, because of the COVID-19. When Gartner made prediction in 2014, COVID-19 was not there. But I think now it's already become the necessity that we need to somehow, some sort of the digital map to let us understand the whole enterprise ecosystem. Yeah, so this is very, very important. And of course, EA as a digital transformer, and also leveraging EA for digital disruption and to drive the innovation. So let me just zoom in into the definition, because some of you may be thinking, what is enterprise architecture? So typically, we are using the analogy on the building, yeah, because when you put it into the enterprise, you can also have a similarity. You got the building concept, the blueprint, all the wiring about our electricity, our piping, our sewerage, and etc. The same thing in the enterprise. We have all the department, we have the IT system, we have the standards, we have the motivation strategy. So it's pretty similar. And typically, the definition is that about enterprise architecture, they are quite varies in terms of the definition. And of course, one thing that we can learn from each one of them actually is about the structure, how they organize the entire interdependency and integration in the entire enterprise. So something, some sort like a map. If you are familiar now, of course, in today's context, we are using Waze or GPS. So this is something that the enterprise needed today to run the operation. Because now, like because of the COVID-19, we cannot go to the office, but we still want to see what happened in the other department. So if you don't have the map, it's very, very difficult. Is there something like Google Map? Even you first time going to that particular city or place, you can turn on the Google Map and you can understand the whole environment. You know, where is the lake, where is the house, where is the building, where is the road, and etc. So now enterprises are also evolving towards the same model. So in terms of the definition, these are something definition of the enterprise architecture, but let me just highlight from the building architects, there are the two keywords, the art and science. Likewise for the medicine, art and science. The science is where you can learn from the university, or you learn from the book, or you get the knowledge from the internet. But the art is where you practice. So the art make you unique as a professional. So like the building architect, if you are a very famous building architect, typically you have more artistic than the scientific part, because scientific is quite standard. You can use the tool, you can use the software, get it done. But the art is make you a very unique. The same thing with the doctor. The art make you become a very well-known or famous doctor. The same thing now with the architects. So they are art and science of designing and delivering valuable technology strategy for the business. So basically the client here is the business, and we know the art that we need to learn the skill set. That's why we have the ITABO, IT Architecture Body of Knowledge by ISA, and we got the science where we can learn about the framework, about the methodology, about all the scientific part on the knowledge of the architecture. And we need to combine this so that we can deliver valuable technology strategy for the business. People are asking about body of knowledge, because like in medical profession, they got the advanced biology, and if you are the lawyer, basically it's advanced reasoning. So it's very unique. The lawyer has been trained, has been taught to do reasoning. So the same thing now with the building, understand all type of the science of the construction. Likewise for engineering, basically advanced mathematics. So now of course we ask, what is the enterprise architect then? Of course here got many definition. And of course, like, are we super developer? Are we super database administrator? Are we IT manager? Are we a developer lead with business competence? Or we are business person with technical competence, delivering value of the technology to the business? So this is a very clear definition, because what happened that I came across to many of the professional that are carrying the title of architects, and they think that technical skill are the most knowledge that they need to have. Because typically the role of architect, about 70-80% you are going to cover the business a lot, and the 20-30% is where you are trying to apply which technology that deliver maximum value to the business. So typically is that how you become the architect is that you need to have 10 years of IT experience, and you also need to have performing multiple roles of the business and IT in the organization, so you know what they do. And of course, the irony is that you need to also fail in a couple of large IT project or transformation project and burn millions of dollars, and you are not put in jail. So this is very interesting about the profession of, in fact, in general, entire IT profession. Of course, now with the body of knowledge, we don't need to be a 10 years IT experience. We don't need to be like, performing programmer before or expert, or we don't need to be old. Anyone can be trained to become the architects. So let me just give you a glance on the body of knowledge. So the body of knowledge here, you can see they got multiple pillars. They got 5 pillars. The bottom pillars is business technology strategy. This is something very important today in the digital era, that business and technology need to be together. Then you need to have the IT environment pillar in terms of the skill set. You need to know the project management. You need to know about the IT support. You need to know about governance. And the quality attribute is about all the security, risk, maintainability, modifiability, and etc. And human dynamic is about office politics, communication, presentation, etc. And design is about how you do modeling on the architecture. Then after that, of course, they got the domain of architecture here. And enterprise architecture is the umbrella for all of this. Module 2 about understanding business IT challenges. Then this one is physically, we are comparing with our physical world. So in our physical world, they got 7 wonders of the world. And of course, these are some of them. And interestingly, of course, just want to highlight is that 7 wonders on the world, typically the building has been 1,000 years that is still standing today. And of course, until one day a disaster happened. So one day when disaster happened, the industry start panic. What happened with the building? Why the building next door can stand still, but our building collapsed? So these are something that triggering our world. Even like now today in the era of COVID-19, some of the business can continue, but we cannot. What happened? So we need to know, we need to learn, and we need to quickly transform ourselves. So typically is that about the requirement in the physical world is quite straightforward. What we draw typically in our building architecture on the civil engineering, we really get what we have designed. But in our world, we can have a meeting, many series of meeting, and everyone agree on the concept of the light. Of the light basically to give you brightness. But however, when during the implementation, people disagree because you can see here, everyone coming with their own background and everyone got different expectation, but they don't know how to communicate. Either using the LED light or using fluorescent, or this guy is using the just a torch, or this one just a normal bulb, but we don't know, we cannot define. At the end, we have some issue. And of course, this is also another irony in our day-to-day life, that many of our team is that they are producing a very complex and interesting diagram or the matrix or the pictures, but actually have delivering little value. Perhaps if I draw this particular diagram in the middle here, and 6 months later you ask me, Aaron, why you put this part of the box in the different like pink color like this? I can guarantee you that I will tell you, oops, actually I'm not so sure. That was 6 months ago. 6 months ago towards October, November last year and December, I'm not so sure why I put a pink color. So this is the reality of our life. If we cannot even communicate the design, how do people implement it? Then the next one, of course, implementing quality design. The building also, some of them collapsing, but very little in terms of the percentage, like less than 1 or 2%. And in the IT world, it's scary. Many IT people have some issue. Even a big vendor is also releasing many patches. So this is part of our life today. And dealing with the scalability, the building also can scale, can connect with the underpass, with the overhead bridge, etc. The IT, we got many products, and at the end, we also get some issue in terms of the how do we integrate all of them, because even the same vendor but different version also have issue in the integration. Then the next one, of course, integrating the entities, the building connecting, like if you see all the mall, they are typically not standalone. In the CBD, normally they are connected each other. And of course, the IT, they can come out the nice diagram, but the reality is they just plug in the cable at the back. Yeah. So of course, this is also another irony. We have been doing many projects in the last 20-30 years. So at the end, we are developing the island. And if we don't move into the proper way of system development or capturing the business requirement, at the end, we are also ending up with the digital island. Yeah, so digital island is something that is not recommended at all. And in terms of the agility, we also need to know that information is very important. That's why we need to have a good information architecture to define all the information or data required for business to make decision making. And of course, flexibility. Now talking about microservices, now talking about the integration, software, and etc. that is self-configurable. So we need to have some sort of flexibility. We need to have a good software architecture there. And adaptability. In terms like now, of course, moving to the cloud and virtualization, and then they can access from anywhere. So we need to have a very good infrastructure architect. And of course, productivity, rack processes, and operation. We really need to have a good business architecture. Because without this 4 domain of architecture, it's very hard for our organization moving forward. This is what happened that today without enterprise architecture or has been practiced in the last 20-30 years. Business come out their requirement, user requirement, and some they call it functional spec. Then after that, they go straight into the system development and infrastructure. This was happening in the last 20-30 years in the era of computerization. So if you continue doing this today, it's very challenging to be successful. So what we need to do actually, we need to have the business strategy, architecture strategy. Then you come out the gap of what is going to be done is by the roadmap, and of course governed by the governance. And then from there, you can implement your system and set up the infrastructure. So this is something very important. The next one, of course, on the business technology model. So in the past, business send IT people what they need, what requirement they require. Then the IT people look at the system they have, look at their databases, and they agree to deliver something. So after that, they do the delivery, launching the system. But unfortunately, business found it more difficult to use than their previous Excel spreadsheet or previous system. So these are some of the issues that many of us are facing today. So what we need to do actually is that we need to have some sort of the architecture that agree to model the business and technology together, and both need to have some sort of reflective model so that we can understand the impact we can understand the decision that impacted the model that moving forward, how business and IT can work together. So let me now move into the business requirement architecture. I wish that I can see you face to face now, then I can ask you some of the questions. How many of you involved in the business analysis? How many of you involved in the system analysis? How many of you have thought that you have found a good way in capturing the business requirement that make the business people supporting you? And how many of you have a very good business people that can help you to define the requirement? So between the business and the IT. So this is what happened when the business thought of having a swing. And this is also what he has in mind, but after somehow talking with the contractor, with the IT or vendor, they somehow agreed to this type of model. And that's why the business thought it cost only like 100,000. At the end, the business agreed to pay 500,000. So this is something like what I call it requirement creep. So at the end of the day, we cannot really blame, is it business fault or is it IT fault? Because both cannot communicate at the same frequency. So let's go through how this thing so-called goes wrong. First, this is how the customer explain it. So the business people also explain it not in the right method. So at the end, the business analyst, when they capture the requirement, it will turn out into a sofa. Because the business analyst think like the customer want to be comfortable. Then the system analyst coming, they also forgot. They chop off the main branch of the tree, and this is of course cause the whole thing chaotic, because the tree without the main branch cut off, it will turn dry. Basically the plant cannot grow anymore. Then this is how the project leader come in and understood the situation after talking with the customer, with the business analyst and system analyst. So this is what the project leader understood it after talking with the three parties. And at the end, when the documentation need to be finalized, so when they document, after attend a few meetings, at the end they're given up. No point to continue documenting because they keep changing. This is what they said, they keep changing the requirement. Then this is how the programmer wrote it. So the programmer also not so sure. So basically just come out the class diagram using technology, using programming language like .NET, Java, and etc. Then after that, the deployment, the infrastructure team, they just put one rope because they thought can also swing. And interestingly, the billing, the cost of the project is according to the plan. So if the cost 1 million is the 1 million. And the support, basically the help desk, they don't know how to support because is that the system is never deployed. And actually what the customer needed is just a simple tie it in the rope to the tree branch. So you can see here, who's at fault? It's very, very interesting that the chain of mistake or misunderstanding is basically that across the entire department. So how can we resolve this? And of course, this is another irony in our today life as well. So they only partially align. Partially aligned means consider not aligned. Imagine if this is the railway track. How can the railway come through? It's only one track aligned. So of course now we need to have some sort of the requirement architecture, that we need to define something that business requirements should be easier to read, write, and understood by both business and non-technical and IT team. And also need to provide a guidance. So when we write something, you can tell if something is missing. This is very, very important. Because if this missing part you discover during the implementation or after go live, it will become change request. And that one will cause a lot of the impact to the business in terms of, could be stopping the business, may cause some of the disruption. So requirement also need to be consistent across multiple projects. So when you have defined the requirement architecture, when you move around the team from one department to from one project to another project, they need to be consistent. Because without consistency, people will tend to overlook certain things. But if you're consistent that the document must have 5 sections. So when you look at it into another project, you can ask, hey, why this project got 6 sections? Why this project got 4 sections? By right, it should have 5. So you need to have some sort of requirement definition here. So this is where the typical requirement like. Typically, the user give you their requirement, and then we need to have some sort of the business requirement architecture. Then we analyze from the use cases. So this is what I'm going to introduce shortly. Then from here, you can also know how to write the programmer to write the code and also to do testing. These are very, very important. Sometimes the programmer cannot really write the code well because the requirement keep changing along the way. So at the end, whatever they have designed is become impacted. Same thing when you do a testing. It's very hard to test because why? I don't know what my baseline is. That's why you need to have some sort of the use cases here. So you can have the baseline and then you can carry out your implementation smoothly. So typically, this is the situation when you come out the user requirement, you come out the requirement architecture with the use cases here, then you come out with the object-oriented analysis and design, then you do all the components or network. Yeah, so basically it's about providing traceability. This is something very, very important in the era of digital, because we cannot say something that, oh, you ask me, I said, I don't know. The word I don't know is very, very dangerous. We need to solve all the business issue. We need to be able to answer the impact. So the target audience for the business requirement architecture, basically, firstly, project manager. So again, typically, if I have face-to-face with you, I want to ask how many of you project manager, and I will ask you, how do you know your project require 9 months? Who tell you that? Some of you may think, oh, because the senior management said in 9 months they need this thing. And of course, my next question: how do you know that your project costs 2 million? Nobody knows. And how do you know that you can have 10 people to complete the project? Who knows that? So these are the typical project management conversation that I would like to have, because typically is that I've come across to many situations that most of them are actually, they don't know how to get the numbers. Then of course the developers, how do you write a good source code? How do you know the requirement is complete? So this is something that are also required. Then for architects, how do you know that this project have so-called gone through a business review? What capability you're trying to develop? Then for those tester, how do you know your test script is complete? How do you know your test script cover a multiple various scenario? Then for the business user, you also need to know, how do you know that you already communicated the requirement to the IT team? And for the database designer, how do you know you have captured the right information structure that support the business decision making? And for the business analyst and system analyst, how do you actually understand the documenting the requirement as well as designing the component design? So in short, there are many various findings. How you capture the requirement, you go through the observation. If your business team have no clue, I've come across one of the client is that the IT team need to stay in the area of the business department floor for about 1 week to 2 weeks to observe what they do. Or you may also want to do a background reading, and you may want to interview some of the users, and you want to do document sampling to verify, and you can also send a list of questionnaire. And of course, doing a brainstorming. If you really trying to solve particular problem that has never had a solution before. So typically, you need to ask the question like how will you use this feature? How might we think differently about this feature? How we know this is a complete process? You can also use where question. Where does the process start? Where would the user access this feature? Where would the user be located physically, and when? Basically, when are they going to use this? Because this one is very, very important when we need to define the system. Continue with who will be the user. We need to know that. Are they a highly technical user, or they are only approval group of users? Then what question do they ask in terms of what does this feature need to do? What is the end result of doing this feature? What else can possibly happen in this process? And why? So these are some of the questions that we can start when we are trying to probe for the information in regards to the business requirement. So of course, a good business requirement must be a representation of a significant business need or problem. That's very, very important. Then of course, enable IT to understand the value that of a developed solution. And of course, must be smart. So I think smart here, when we come up the requirement, we need to be very, very specific. Because otherwise it's very, very difficult for the IT team who design or the programmer who write the code if you are not very specific. And of course must be measurable so that we know whether we are doing it right. And actionable means is we can implement that. the solution with the available technology that we have today, and realistic in terms of the cost and the capability, and the time bound. Basically, we need to know when are we using this, or maybe time bound in the context of the requirement that every 6 months we need to purge particular data and etc. So all these are very, very important attributes to define a very good business requirement. So use case documentation, if you have a good business requirement, basically, of course, the objective is that we need to understand what information is required when writing a use case documentation. And we want to produce accurate and precise functional requirement. This is very, very important because the impact of you don't capture it accurately or precisely, if we have a domino impact. So the ratio is this. When you have somehow discovered the requirement creep at this level, the cost of fixing it almost zero. Basically, you just need to write a new sentence or you just need to erase the model. It's zero. The cost is almost zero. But when you go into the production, into the development, it may cost maybe a few $100 because why? I need to delay half a day. I need to delay 1 day because of this new requirement that has not been defined. When they go to production, it may cost millions because it may cause something that cause the mistake, the error to the user. And that one, depending on the profile of your organization, can also impact the brand and reputation. And of course, the use case documentation here also can be used as a common platform to capture the correct requirement. And this is what they call it design by contract. Basically, they understood the both sides between business, IT, and system development. This is a so-called baseline of the requirement. What are the building blocks in the business requirement architecture? You need to have the name. We call it use case name. So use case name, something need to be the active name and also need to be easily understood by reading the name itself. Secondly, you need to have the actor. When you're talking about requirement, you need to know multiple actors. Of course, the first actor is the human being. You need to know who are the human actors that are using the system. And can also be another system that are interfacing with your new system. They also can be considered an actor. So we need to know this. Then the third one, we need to define the basic flow. So the basic flow is something that we are talking about the perfect world. So let me just give you an example on the business requirement on the withdrawing money from ATM. What is the basic flow? The basic flow will be the actor insert ATM card into the ATM machine. Then what happened? The machine will prompt me to enter the PIN number. So I enter my PIN number. Then after that, I will select withdrawing money. Then I can select the amount. Then after that, the money dispensed and the card ejected. So that's called the basic flow. The basic flow means it's the perfect world, perfect scenario without any error. So when you want to define the requirement correctly, you need to be able to define the basic flow first. Because if you cannot define the basic flow, forget about the actual requirement that is complex, that have an error. Yeah, so for instance, like when I insert the ATM card, perhaps my ATM card cannot be read. Or perhaps when I enter my PIN number cannot be is wrong, or maybe when I want to withdraw the money, actually exceeding my balance. So this all happen later, but we need to define the basic flow first. So basic flow means the perfect world. Then we need to know the precondition. What are the for this requirement to be successful? What do you need? Then after that, what can you deliver upon successful this use case scenario? Then this is very interesting about variation. So variation means something that can also possibly happen. So typically the variation will refer to the basic flow. So the basic flow, say just now in the withdrawing money to ATM, when the money is being ejected, the system prompt, do you also want to perform other transaction? They call it variation here. So the variation, basically we are checking to all the flow in use cases in the basic flow to make it a complete. The same thing with the exception. The exception means what thing can go wrong. So for instance, just now in the basic flow of the entering the PIN number, maybe I forgot entering the wrong PIN number. That's called exception. So how can the system behave or handle the exception? Because the exception need to be handled gracefully. Gracefully means the system need to be able to run and tell you the error message. Cannot just hang in there. So this is something also very, very critical that we need to capture in the requirement. Then the next one, extension, if you need to use other module, and then if there's any business rule. For instance, if you want to transfer money instantly, there will be some sort of like 50-cent transfer fee, for instance, or $1 transfer fee. You can also apply there. Then non-functional requirement like all the scalability, security, encryption, mobility, and etc. all need to be specified as well if required, and the screenshot if there is. So these are so-called the document section, or what I would say the building block of a good business requirement. From here you can architect. So typically this requirement architecture also come with the diagram. So this is a diagram actually taken from UML, which is the use case. So this one actually I am sharing with you about the hotel management system. So in the typical hotel, they got three so-called main features: check-in, check-out, and reserve room. So these are the three: check-in, reserve room, and check-out. Then when you check in, you also need to make sure that look at which are the room available for the guests to check in, to be assigned the room number. So when you reserve a room, you also enter your date and your preference, etc. And then we go into the use case check room availability. See whether next month on the 20th of July, we have the room for you. So these are some sort of the use case that will need to be performed. Then of course, when you reserve a room, you need to put deposit. Say call it settle payment. Then when you check out, typically you also need to do settle payment. After the room successfully check out, you need to inform housekeeping. So these are the cleaner to clean the room. And perhaps this one also another actor. The settle payment maybe go through the merchant. So this is where the payment system is. So this is a so-called the simplistic way of the hotel management system. And let me just walk through with you a check-in use case. So when you typical check-in is that, do you have a precondition? Well, it depends. If you have the hotel that require that if not check-in, you cannot, if you don't have prior check-in, you cannot book, then you put something here. But in this context, I put it as none because you can walk in. You can walk into any hotel and check at the spot whether you have the room or not. So no precondition. Then post condition, when you check in, you assign a room. So this is the example on the basic flow. The use case start when the hotel guest check into the hotel receptionist will validate the hotel guest reservation record by capturing a passport or IC number. The hotel receptionist will assign a room number based on the hotel guest preferences, such as room type, bed size, number of persons, smoking or non-smoking. So you can see here, IC number, room type, bed size. This all will be picked up by the database designer or DB analyst. They're going to capture this. And of course, this use case ends when the hotel guest has been successfully assigned to a room. So in this basic flow itself is the perfect scenario. So the application, if you are doing software development, system analyst, you know what are the object classes that you need to create. If you are the database designer, you know what information to be captured. If you are infrastructure, you know also what infrastructure need to be provided. If you are the business architect, you also need to know what are the business process or flow required. So of course, continue. They still got number of the section need to be filled in. So the variation. So these are the way to capture the variation. At step number 2, if the hotel guest has not made any reservation, the hotel receptionist will check on room availability based on your user preference. So here step number 2 actually referring to step number 2 of the basic flow. Remember just now I mentioned to you that if you want to develop a very good user requirement that is complete and precise, you need to define the basic flow first. So if you cannot define the basic flow, forget about if else like this. If the variation that can also do this, or exception at step 2. If the reservation verification fail, the system will inform the user to check in without reservation. So step 2 here actually referring to this. These are very, very important concept, and actually if you can solve this, if you can just adopt this approach, it will also bring you a big impact into the success of any IT project implementation or transformation project when you're going into the project team itself. Then next one, of course, got step 3, then where you have using another module, and some of the non-functional requirement, the system need to respond within 5 seconds. So all these requirements look like simple, but actually have a maximum meaning for the implementation. Imagine I remove all this section, I change this into a paragraph. What happened? Which one is easier to read? A paragraph, or I can put the numbering like this? Because paragraph tend to be overlooked, but with the numbering you cannot overlook. By the way, all this numbering itself, it will go into the test cases. So when you want to do a test cases, you plug in these numbers and you test it according to this requirement. So it's a very, very high impact and super practical, highly practical, and yet can solve many of the requirement creep, and also enhancing business and IT relationship. in terms of the understanding, capturing the requirement, and documenting all this. And of course, if you are from the process analyst itself, all this basic flow can also step 1, step 2 can also be turned into the business process analysis, the modeling. And all this variation and accession can be a diamond decision and can also be a swim lane in between. So these are a very, very powerful and practical approach. And of course, for the project manager, if you want to estimate the project, how long does it take? You can also use all this numbering to assign how many man days and how many resources out there. So this example itself, I would say, is world industry best practices. Unfortunately, seldom applied correctly. I repeat, the word is seldom applied correctly because I've come across to many large organizations. They are using the same approach, but they don't do it really correctly. Because of that, they cannot get the maximum impact on the requirement architecture. Let me just give you one more example about the checkout in the hotel. So when you check out, the precondition is that you must have check-in. If you haven't checked in, then you cannot check out. That's very obvious. Then the post condition, of course, the guest has been successfully checked out. Then the basic flow, of course, the use case start when the hotel guest check out the hotel receptionist will consolidate all transaction and present the bill to the hotel guest, and there is no discrepancy. That's very, very important because this one is a perfect scenario. Then the hotel receptionist receive and processes the payment, which then inform the housekeeping to clean the room. This is also very, very important to complete the task so that the room is ready for the next guest. Then the use case end when the hotel guest has been successfully checked out. So variation, if none, you put it none. Exception at the step number 2. If there are bill discrepancy, the hotel receptionist is authorized to settle discrepancy on the spot. So typically this one, number 2, most of the hotel receptionists can settle on the spot, whether they want to waive or you have to pay. Then extension, they will use a settle payment and inform housekeeping use cases to execute the job. And business rule here, they will be 10% service charge, or maybe got GST, got SST, and etc. IT exists to support the business. This is something that we need to understand very, very well. And business must appreciate IT as a strategic business platform. So basically, both teams need to work together. That's the message. Then, of course, in order for IT to be effective, all IT staff must know the business well and deliver business value. This one, I would think number 2 is very, very tough for the IT people to have interest in business. The reason that they are doing IT because they don't take a business subject. But if you notice today, most of the senior people that have successfully climbed to the director or higher in the IT department, typically their knowledge is supplemented by the MBA, by the Master of Business Administration that they took part-time during their career. The reason for that is that they need to show the business value. But of course, now the good news is that alternatively, they got the ISA path. Just now in the beginning of the webinar, I show you the path through like the business technology strategy training. That one is very, very popular. That one, it will put you so-called addressing this point 1 and 2 for you to be relevant to the business. And of course, this is also number 3. IT investment can only be justified based on the business needs. So basically is that if you don't apply this, anything you ask for the business will tell you that no budget. Because in the business world, they call it zero-sum game. Zero-sum game means if I have already invested in one thing, I cannot invest in the other. And I need to select the most ROI, highest return on investment. So how can we do this? If we cannot show that what we do and delivering the ROI, we cannot get support. And of course, architect is the bridge that connect business and IT. And every IT professional must know the business. Architect must perform the role of the technology strategies for the business. And this is very, very important message. Every IT professional must think technology. We can think technical, but speak and write business. So this last statement is the one that very, very critical, that we need to change this mindset. We can talk TCP/IP or XML or HTTP with our colleague among IT people. But when we talk to the outsider, if we continue talking about the HTTP or TCP/IP, people don't understand what we are talking about. We need to speak and write business. So this is the very so-called rules that are very, very important if you want to be successful in your career.